Alright, so Ilia Topuria versus Islam Makhachev seems to be the most anticipated matchup in the UFC, and everybody's calling for this fight. But I don't think that the UFC should just rush this fight for the fans, because it's one of the biggest matchups of all time and the UFC cannot afford to fumble this, okay? But let me know who you guys would pick in this matchup, whether it's Islam Makhachev or Ilia Topuria, and while you're down there, I'd appreciate if you could like, subscribe. We're so close to 560 subs. Anyway, let me get into it. Now, everyone is calling for Islam Makhachev to fight Ilia Topuria as soon as possible, but for me, this matchup just feels a bit rushed, considering how big of a matchup this actually is. I mean, people are talking about this fight being the most skilled fight of all time, like one of the greatest fights of all time, maybe the biggest fight since like Rosenstrike versus Shamil Gaziev, or like Conor McGregor versus Habib. Like, this fight has potential to be one of the biggest fights of all time, but people just want to see this as soon as possible, you know? I feel like with a matchup like this, you kind of need to be edged a little, you know? You have to be teased. But then you have Lucas Tracy saying that we need this fight immediately before Islam Makhachev goes up to welterweight. This makes no sense. Islam Makhachev is not going up to welterweight anytime soon, okay? As long as Belal has the belt, Islam Makhachev is not going up to welterweight. So I think the UFC should really take their time with this matchup, because they have at least until the end of the year before Islam Makhachev decides to move up to welterweight and, you know, they can't make this fight anymore. But I think that's way more than enough time to generate the hype that this fight deserves, because the potential for this fight's hype is so insane. I truly believe this could do like Conor level numbers, and there's just no way that they can generate that level of hype in just like 2 or 3 months. So I want to talk about what I think the UFC should do next then with Ilia Topuria and Islam Makhachev, starting off with a fight for both guys before they fight each other. I think this is really important, okay? Because for Ilia, I think he should fight at least one lightweight so he can get adjusted to the weight class, and on top of that, end the narrative of him just being a featherweight, because I think it's a big thing right now. Obviously, everyone calls out Islam Makhachev for only fighting featherweights, and you see people dismissing him, saying that he's too small for Islam Makhachev, he's too small for lightweight, even though he clearly has the power to knock out any lightweight on the planet. People are still dismissing him. So if he goes out there and proves that he's a real lightweight by beating a real lightweight contender, it would be huge for him. It would generate so much more hype. It would completely dismiss that narrative, shut that down, and it would just gain so much more interest and eyes on this fight. And on top of that, it would make Islam Makhachev take him way more seriously, because I'm sure Islam Makhachev in the press conference is going to be calling this guy a small guy, right? And on top of that, there is just a perfect matchup waiting for him at lightweight. And I don't know how no one else has talked about this, because this is like a star aligning fight. That guy is Arman Tsarukyan. Arman Tsarukyan cannot fight for a title because he just pulled out, and he needs someone to fight, and there's no one else really for him to fight. And that guy is the perfect test for Ilia Topuria. He is very well rounded, he has good striking, he has good grappling, and Arman has a very similar skill set to Islam Makhachev. So I think this would be a perfect test for Ilia. And on top of that, Arman Tsarukyan just has a ton of hype behind his name. So if Ilia Topuria can beat him, that would be huge for Ilia Topuria as well, and would just set up that match with Islam Makhachev almost perfectly, okay? And on top of that, this fight is just pretty good because you can basically just put it anywhere, okay? You could put it on a co-main of a pay-per-view, or you could put it on a fight night in Spain if you really want to do that for Ilia Topuria. I think that would be really cool, because I don't really think that Ilia Topuria is going to beat Islam Makhachev, so if Ilia Topuria can get a fight night in Spain, that would be pretty huge. And as for Islam Makhachev, I think he needs a fight as well, okay? His last fight was against Renato Moicano on like 1 day's notice. That fight barely got like any attention. It was heavily overshadowed by Merab versus Umar, because that was a very controversial and huge fight. And I just think Islam Makhachev really needs to have a big fight before he fights Ilia Topuria, you know? Because if Islam Makhachev gets a huge fight, it doesn't even have to be like a close fight against someone who's really deserving. I think Charles Oliveira or Justin Gaethje would be perfect to fight Islam Makhachev before Ilia Topuria, okay? Just get some big name out there to drive a lot of attention on Islam Makhachev, and then he can call out Ilia Topuria, and that just, again, that also just sets up the fight perfectly, okay? Because a guy like Justin Gaethje or a guy like Charles Oliveira, they might not be able to beat Islam Makhachev, but no matter what, that fight is going to be huge, okay? A fight with Charles Oliveira too, even if I don't think it's close and none of the fans really want to see that, among casuals and everybody else, that fight is still going to be huge. Everybody is still going to watch a Charles Oliveira rematch, or Justin Gaethje fights Islam Makhachev. Again, even if nobody thinks that Justin Gaethje is going to win, everybody's going to pay attention to that fight, and it would just be huge for Islam Makhachev, drive a lot of attention on his name, and I think that's exactly what you need for Islam Makhachev. This guy's proved himself enough. He doesn't really need to beat another contender. You just need to give him a fun fight to build a bit of hype, and I think you can do either of those in International Fight Week, which is when Islam Makhachev wants to return. But I think another reason that they should just put this fight off for a bit longer is that Ilia Topuria and Islam Makhachev, they just have this like beef. They have so much like tension, pause, okay? Like you can just feel a beef is about to kick off at almost any moment between these guys, okay? Islam Makhachev is talking about how he doesn't want to fight Ilia Topuria, you know, he doesn't want to fight another featherweight. He's given enough featherweight chances. He wants to go up and get his second belt. And, like, you know, Islam Makhachev, his whole team is saying that they don't want to fight Ilia Topuria. Meanwhile, Ilia Topuria is, like, chasing Islam Makhachev. He really, really wants that fight. And on top of that, you have this whole, like, Georgia versus Dagestan beef right now, which kind of just came out of nowhere. It started with Merab versus Umar. But these are like the two most craziest fan bases in the UFC. If they can just push a narrative that there's like a Georgia versus Dagestan war between Ilia Topuria and Islam Makhachev, it would actually go insane, because these fan bases are like actually nuts, okay? The Georgians are genuinely crazy because you see them in every single comment section saying Merab Dvalishvili is so goated, okay? This guy is so skilled, he's good everywhere, he is striking like Alex Pereira, wrestling like Khabib, he might be the greatest fighter of all time. You know, he absolutely dominated Umar Nurmagomedov, when in reality, it was a close 48-47 decision that was like razor thin, okay? And then Umar Nurmagomedov also like outstruck him and outgrappled him for the first 2 rounds. So like, these guys are genuinely crazy, and then the Dagestanis, I don't even need to like explain how nuts these guys are, okay? They're also pretty crazy. So you have 2 people representing countries that have some of the most loyal fan bases in MMA. I don't think you can just rush this matchup in like 2 months. You really need to build this beef on like Instagram, YouTube, whatever. Really push out that narrative of Georgia versus Dagestan. Because if you get these guys arguing in the comments, bro, the hype is going to be insane. And this is what I'm saying. There is so much like stuff going into this fight that if they just do it perfectly, bro, this fight genuinely could be like a Conor versus Khabib level fight. I don't think he'll get there like yet, because obviously Conor is like just an insane side, like he's just a different level, but I think this could be like top 5 biggest pay-per-views of all time if they really build this right and they really carry this out perfectly. I think they could do this in like anywhere from like October to December, preferably like, you know, December, because in MSG, I think it's MSG, or maybe that's November, but like around that time, bro, it would literally be perfect if they can just get that stadium, get a stacked card. There is no way they can mess this up unless they just do this fight as soon as possible, just because everybody's asking for it. You know, if they do it in June, kind of like Dana is implying, because, you know, Dana White is saying that he has something special for Islam Makhachev, and it kind of does seem like that's going to be Ilia Topuria. I really hope they don't, because there's just no way that they could do this in like 2 or 3 months. I just truly don't believe that there's any way they can build that level of hype in like 2 or 3 months. That needs to be like for the whole year, because fights like this, you kind of need to wait, okay? The thing is, when you want something so bad and then you wait for it, it just builds the hype even more, okay? So I think they really should just wait for this fight, because I think it's only a matter of time before one of these guys just does something that's going to set it off, okay? I don't know if anyone else is like realizing this either, but like, bro, I feel like you can just see it, bro. The tension between these guys is like insane. It just feels like something is bubbling up. And I don't think like 2 months is going to, again, I keep saying this, I don't think that 2 or 3 months is going to be enough for any of this, okay? This fight is way too big to just be, you know, oh, yeah, we'll just do this in International Fight Week, get this out of the way. Bro, again, like the fan bases are crazy. They have this crazy like beef that's like kind of there. And I just think if you give it like maybe like a couple months, okay, both these guys get a win at lightweight, bro, I'm telling you, Ilia Topuria is going to say something, Islam Makhachev is going to say something that's just going to set it off, and it's going to be this absolutely insane war, bro. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. Let me know what you guys thought about it down in the comments, and yeah, that's going to be it. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. All right.